Hey guys, so in part 7 we're going to deal with cookies. We're going to create a simple login mechanism, and we're going to create an endpoint that is defended by middleware that's going to check if a cookie is present with a validated value, and if so it will grant access to that endpoint, and if not it will not. Fairly simple. We're not going to deal with session management and stuff like that because I feel it's a little bit out of scope and will make this video too long. So without further ado, let's start. So let's begin with creating a new group. Let's call it cookie group. And the prefix will be cookie. And you know what, if we're calling this group a cookie group, let's call the old group admin group. Oops. And let's copy paste it all the places we called it G. Cool. Okay, so now that we have the group, the new cookie group, let's create the endpoint. So let's let it get let's edit a get request, let's call it just main. Yes, for now without any only with the main handler. So let's set up the handler. I just copy paste the main admin and do something, whoops, and do something similar. Cool. So now let's check that it works. Sorry, I need to export my Go path, so let's do it really quickly. Oops. Build it, run it. Cool. So we're having our endpoint, not defended endpoint, and now let's create our login endpoint. So for that we're going to use the main echo instance. So let's say get, and let's call it just login for now. Let's use a handler that we'll call login. And the same as we did before. Cool. So now let's say that the login will be a simple endpoint that will pass username and password in the URL as the query params. So let's extract them. So let's say that will be username and password. So let's let's extract those from the context. So we did it before, if you remember, using query param. Let's say username, oops, and cool. So once we have those, in the real life we should check them in the DB or something like that. And obviously after hashing it, but in this case we're going to just do a silly test like we did with the basic authentication. So let's say just if username is equal to, let's even use the same credentials, and password is equals to 1234. So this will be a legitimate credentials. So in this case we're going to create a cookie instance from the HTTP cookie struct, okay, which have a name, a value, a path, domain expires, and more. By the way, this is the same exactly. Just syntax sugar, I guess you can call it, but this is exactly the same, so I'll just leave it commented out. And now let's add the value, the name for the cookie, which will be let's call it session ID. Let's add the value, which in this case will be just some string, but in real life it will be probably some kind of a hash or something like that, that will signify represent the session of that particular user. And with this session, in the session store you will store usually the user ID and the specific user ID and stuff like that, maybe the email, maybe some more information. This session will be stored maybe on Redis server or something of that order, and we're not going to get into it this time. If you want me to go into it, so please comment below and I will do a separate video about it. I just feel this is will make this video too long and a little bit out of scope of cookies. So let's add, just for fun, cookie expires date. Let's add the time package. Where were we? Yeah, so time. Now let's add it, let's say 48 hours. So yeah, so we have ourselves a cookie. So now all we need to do is take the context and set our cookie. So do it simply by doing this. Now set cookie does not return anything, so we don't need to worry about errors or any stuff like that. And actually this is it. So let's return a string that will say you were logged in to the user, and if all of this fake authentication fail, let's say to the user something like status unauthorized, and let's say you are your, let's say, username or password were wrong. Okay, so now basically we have a logging mechanism, simple logging mechanism that will set a cookie for us, but we don't have yet a mechanism that will check that cookie. So let's go on and build it and just see that everything we have here works. Cool. And let's go and try to log in. So just see that we don't have any cookies now, so let's clean them. So yeah, so the username is Jack and the password is 1234. Let's, you know what, just fake the password to something else. And you have your username or password are wrong. Let's get it to the right one, and you're logged in. Now let's go and see if the cookie was set correctly. And yeah, we have a session ID cookie, and the content is some string. Perfect. And we can see that the expiration date is 48 hours from now. So everything works great. Now let's go and create a middleware that will check our cookie. Yeah, so this middleware will check if the cookie have the right credential, and if so, it will grant access to our new endpoint, and if not, it will not. So let's create it. Let's call it check cookie, and we know how to create a middleware at this point, so I'm not going to explain it again. Cool. So now let's extract first the cookie. So let's get the cookie from the context. The name was session ID, right? With both of them capitals. Yeah. Now let's say that if let's handle the error. And if everything is okay, let's check the cookie. So if the cookie is equals to some string, and at this point we go, in real life we would go to the session store, pull it out, and see if the session ID or the value is equal to any value there, and then get the user information. In this example, we just want to show how to use cookies, so I'm going to do some fake check. So if this is true, we're going to return, we're going to pass it forward the request, and if not, we're going to return and let's say we're going to return a string that says you don't have the right cookie. Yeah. What's wrong here? Oh yeah, this is an object, so this is what we need to do. Yeah, cool. One more issue I want to show you. Let's just print it. Print here. There before the response, and I will explain you why I'm doing it in a second. But first, let's use this check cookie middleware, and let's use it on our cookie group. So let's, yeah, exactly like that. So now on each of the endpoint of the cookie, I will run the cookie check, and I will check the session if the cookie is there and the validation for the value of the cookie. So let's build it and see if it works. Okay, so remember we have the cookie here, right? So let's go and try to access our cookie main endpoint. So only that it's now secret, so let's go and change it. Where was it? You are on the secret, right? Cool. So now let's refresh it, and we are now on the secret cookie page. Now let's go and delete our cookie and see if it will still work. So let's remove it. Let's remove, you know what, everything. Refresh, and we're getting an error. Why? This is why I wanted to print to you the error that we're having. That we're having here. And if we look, we see that we get a named cookie not present. And what happened is that the handler, the check cookie handler, is trying to extract the cookie session ID. It does not find it, and it throws an error. The error is from the type named cookie not present. But in this code, no matter what error we have, we're returning an error. This is not good, so we need to do an exception. So let's say if error, let's convert to string. You know what, let's do something like this. Strings contain, oh, I don't have strings here, so let's add strings package. Strings, yeah. So if strings contains an error, which one is which, I don't remember. Yeah, the first one is the full string and the second is the substring. So if the error contains, and let's copy that, named cookie not present, then let's return a string http status unauthorized, and let's say you don't have the cookie. Cool. Yeah, I like it. You don't have any cookie, actually. Don't have any cookie. And if it's any other error, then we'll just throw an error, and you know what, let's leave the print error for debugging. Yeah, so now let's build it. Now let's run it again, and yeah, now you see that we get the real message that you don't have the cookie. Let's just run it again. Log in with the username and the password. I'm logged in, and now let's go to the cookie page, cookie endpoint, sorry. Whoa, what just happened here? Let's see. Main 151. Oh yeah, I don't have an error, and I'm trying to convert it to string. So let's take it all out from here and run it only if we have an error, not name. Yeah, this is right. So let's build it again. And let's run it again. And now we're on the secret cookie page. Cool. So this is a short introduction to cookies. Obviously, there's a lot to cover in the full mechanism of this type with the session management and some kind of a Redis server, and that can be a really big headache when you're trying to scale up your server from to multiple servers, and so I do not really love this solution. In the next video, we're going to talk about JWT tokens, which is a stateless way of doing things, meaning that you don't need anything on the server. So with that, thank you, and I see you next time.